Good morning. Again, I'm here with Larry Hartman to talk about a really sensitive topic and one that really comes up much more often than necessary. For those of you who don't remember or don't know Larry, Larry's a Columbia Law School graduate. We've been working together for the past few years. I met Larry at the camp in Miami, went through the RDAP program with him. And I thought that given the nature of this topic, especially with your background, you would be an ideal person to comment and give some flavor to it. What I want to talk about today is a federal public defender and sometimes the stigma surrounding free representation. The other day I was talking to someone and she was explaining to me that as much as she wanted to retain us and work with us, she just borrowed $50,000 from every family member she knew and maxed out her credit cards to pay for an attorney in New York. And when I asked her why you didn't consider a federal public defender, she said, well, are they as good? Are they as competent? And that's an overwhelming question that I get from people that literally beg and borrow their last dollar to pay $10,000, $25,000, $50,000 to attorneys to represent their loved ones without realizing that in nearly every instance, a federal public defender or a CJA is not only better than many private attorneys, but certainly more appropriate. So I thought, given your background, you might be able to shed some light on that.
Right. Well, I have from my background and from my personal experience. I remember when I was going through everything, right? And it was a question mark whether I'd have to go to trial or whether I was going to be able to get a plea agreement that I could live with. And so I felt very compelled to go with a law firm, and there were several different law firms that I looked at, and then going with the most expensive one. With hindsight being 2020, I would have been equally served by one of the less expensive options or by a public defender. I mean, here's the thing. You are in the fight of your life when you are up against the federal criminal justice system. It's terrifying, and you don't want to make any bad decisions, and you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. And so oftentimes people make the decision to go with the expensive option. But rarely is that going to be your best option unless you're going to trial and it's going to be a very sophisticated trial. Public defenders have relationships with the U.S. attorneys, with the judges. They're in there all the time. They have heavy caseloads, which can be problematic because it may be difficult to get their attention as in when you want or need it. But it also, on the flip side of that coin, is they have a lot more experience. So I'll give you an idea. Between the various attorneys I spent money on trying to figure out what my situation was going to be at the outset, I spent about $1 million in total. And that was just to get a plea deal at the end of the day that public defender easily could have gotten me, and I would have saved a boatload of money. So, and then I did have use, by the way, of a public defender because I had some issues on supervised release. I ended up back in the courtroom. And I didn't have access to people. My family was away on trips. And so I had asked the judge to, if I could make use of the public defender that was in the courtroom. The gentleman did an exceptional job. He did better than any private attorney I would have ever seen in that situation. The judge wanted to keep me, in jail until I could post some outrageous amount of bond. He got my bond down. He got me out that day. He held my hand through the rest of the process. And at the end of the day, the supervised release issue went away. And I was extremely pleased. And so what I'm here to tell you is that in most instances, your public defender, if you financially qualify, a public defender will be your best option. They have tons of experience. They have the relationships. And a lot of times, in the way the federal criminal justice system is set up, it's a process. It's a sausage-making factory. And unfortunately, when you're on the other side, you're the sausage being made. And it's about being processed. You could spend a lot of money on an attorney to process you through the system, but rarely is it going to be worth that extra money.
Recently, we were hired by a public defender, actually a court-appointed attorney, in this case from New York City, a case in the Eastern District of New York, where many large law firms do pro bono work. And you're getting all the resources of these large law firms for no cost. So this law firm called us and retained us to help with his clients some mitigation concerns and designation concerns. So keep in mind that even though you think a federal public defender might be overworked and not as qualified as what you believe a private attorney is. Many large law firms offer associates and partners to do pro bono work as part of a federal public defender program.
Right.
So please don't have a stigma or concern and borrow every last cent you have because you think a public defender or a free attorney is not as competent or qualified as what you perceive to be a private attorney. Think about all of the costs you're going to have going forward in your life. And to spend every last dollar on a private attorney is certainly, in many instances, not the most judicious thing you can do. So with that, I encourage you, call us, text us, reach out. We've had experiences with private attorneys, public defenders, CJAs. We can give a lot of insight into this. So thank you. Larry, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.